We are back with another episode of the International Money Cafe podcast. Over the last couple weeks and months and days, we've been getting a lot of questions from prospects and clients, and I've also seen this question come up a lot in advisor communities. The question is, should I move my money overseas? And so in today's episode, we're going to sort of unpack that. What does that mean? Can you do it? Should you even do it? And hopefully by the end of today's conversation, you have some clarity and really be able to answer the question, should I move my money overseas?
Yeah, it's a genuine question. And those who are asking this are definitely very concerned. And, this is not something that's age specific. It's pretty much across the board. And as we are recording today, it's early May and tariffs continue to wreak havoc in the market. There are talks of a possible recession, or people are also saying that we might already be in a recession. And all of the markets, the companies, the traders, the business people, they don't like how the tariffs are affecting all of the stock market prices. And also just the fact that there's so much uncertainty right now in the business community in general. And that definitely has a trickle effect on how markets behave, and because that's where a lot of people's money is. So the long-term goal, so to speak, is manufacturing companies over the many past years have had to outsource work to other countries, right? And this has meant that the American companies or the manufactured goods have relied on raw material, parts, and what have you that have come into the country from other places. Now, there is a good argument that, yes, manufacturing has left the US, and that's what this administration wants, is to bring it back. In the short term, the tariff and all of these other policies are definitely going to impact how much this will cost, and whether this will have what the desired effect is supposed to be at the end, we don't know that yet. So that is the uncertainty we're looking at. And
right.
Yeah.
And I think you've kind of really done a good job explaining it. That's what the tariffs are supposed to do, or that's what it's all about. What I'm finding interesting, and you and I have had conversations on this, most people probably don't really care about the specific details. Who's being tariffed, who's not being tariffed, who's doing what with all these tariffs. But we are concerned. The reason being, as the markets continue to go down, I think we can all identify with that sinking feeling in the pit of the stomach, which is part fear, one part dread, really anxiety as we see the value of our accounts go down. We actually just talked about it before hitting record, that every time we look at our accounts, we're just seeing a lot of red. So I get it. You and I get it. There's a lot of anxiety. And I think a big part of this anxiety, again, it's not because it's the tariffs or what's going on. I think it's really what this money represents. So if I'm counting on the K in my account to be there, let's say next year for a family project, and I see it going down, I log in and I just see lots of red, I'm going to be concerned, and genuinely so, as you pointed out. For most people, the concern is what this money represents, the dreams that are held in this money. Does this mean I'm going to have to retire later? Does this mean I won't be able to pay for the kids' college? And I think a big part of it is the element of feeling like you have no control over what's happening. And as human beings, we feel like we want to do something, anything, maybe move our money overseas.
Yeah. And of course, media doesn't help, or you don't know which part of the media to trust. Are they sensationalizing the issue, or is this the truth? And having that ticker run at the bottom of your computer screen, like you and I was talking about earlier, that doesn't
Bad
help
idea.
either. Yeah. So We see all of these headlines that are downright scary. The CNN headline on April 4th said the Dow plunges 2,200 points as tumult rocks
Mm-hmm.
markets. Market Watch said US stocks see biggest two-day wipeout in history. And, when you are looking at that, on the one hand, you're not alone facing all of those problems. There are millions of people in there with you. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to remember that um, y- the volatility is all part of time, and money goes up, down. I mean, markets go up and down. I'm sorry. And the thing, though, is that there was this almost some kind of a feeling that you took for granted because the US market had outperformed other economies, and they had done it consistently over a period of time. And therefore, people didn't really, coming back to our original question, they didn't have to look outside because the US market was one of the best. And now, after all of these news that are coming out, people are beginning to look at what other possibilities are out there. And then they see, oh, wait a minute. As we were crashing, the stock indexes in Germany and Poland and Spain, or maybe Brazil and other countries, were going up. And comparatively, they were up 25%, where we were getting wiped out. So when you are making that kind of an apples to apples comparison, maybe that question isn't so far fetched, right?
True. And I think with those kind of numbers, like I think you said 25% year to date, right? In the uncertainty of the current situation and the political situation and the immigration situation, we don't need to say all that. And the way the dollar has behaved in the last 1 month as we're recording this, so we're talking, let's say, April to May, really going down against other currencies, I can completely understand why people are asking about moving their money overseas. And by the way, I think the way the question has been coming through, it's not so much invest overseas. People are talking about cold hard cash. Can I take this from my US account? Can I cash out of the US stock market and just take that money, park it in some offshore bank? So we definitely want to acknowledge the dilemma, and I feel terrible. We talked a lot about this. You and I have also invested money in the market, and we can see what's happening. So I completely sympathize entirely with the sentiment and understand that sometimes having another choice can be tricky. So for those of us born in other countries where we still maintain those ties, probably because we still have family, we visit them, chances are we still have bank accounts in our home countries, and we do actually use those accounts to send money home for various reasons. So it's not a stretch to consider the question. Absolutely. For those without the foreign connection, so I'm thinking now, let's say a US citizen born in the US, if you're considering this option and you're asking if you should move your money overseas, it probably means you're scared, and we totally understand and sympathize. So let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, maybe Manasa, we can jump into what does this mean? What are the practicalities of actually moving money overseas?
Hey, dear IMC listener, let me tell you a little story. Coincidentally, when I started my practice, it was the same year in which FATCA was passed into law. FATCA stands for Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. The government started to crack down on those who had financial assets overseas and were not compliant in disclosing these funds to the US government. The FinCEN FBAR filing requirement has been around since 1970, since the Bank Secrecy Act was passed. Well, even though it has been more than 10 years since these laws were passed, we still have many US taxpayers who may have a filing requirement but are completely unaware of it. I'm talking about that joint account with your dad with over 10K back home. So this is in fact our most frequently asked question. We've put together a comprehensive free ebook which goes over the most important compliance requirements for overseas financial assets. And we want you, IMC listener, to have this ebook completely free. All you need to do is go to our website, www.theimcafe.com, and scroll to the bottom of the homepage and enter your first name and email address, and you will be able to download this handy ebook. Now hurry, go get your free and fabulous download. Hey, welcome back, listeners. We were just talking about all of the ramifications around the questions that we've been getting about trying to move money overseas and the fears and the uncertainties that may have prompted that question. So let's consider the practicalities of what it is. Let's say, you can move money overseas because you're concerned about what's going on, the economic environment, the stock market, etc., and how easy or difficult is it for you to be able to actually move the money overseas. So, like Jane was saying before the break, if you already have an account overseas because you have family overseas and you're helping them out, for whatever reason. So you have a relationship in that country, in some kind of a visa, you have opened a bank account. It's pretty straightforward. You can move the money there, and maybe depending on the country that it is in, you have certain ways of investing it, maybe, or just park it in a CD and it may do well. And this would definitely be those people who are either green card holders or here on non-immigrant work visas, or even naturalized citizens or foreign nationals who have a footprint in another country. So to you, we would say, yes, this is a choice. You have this. Maybe you can take it up. Be mindful the exchange rate is also fluctuating. The dollar is getting weaker. So we don't know what will happen down the road if you want to bring this money back into the US. And that happens quite a lot. Those are conversations that Jane and I have constantly about factoring in the foreign exchange rate. So be mindful of that. And of course, please always remember, and this will always come from me, you have reporting requirements. You have an FBAR compliance requirement if you have more than $10,000 overseas, and depending on your filing status, you may have a FATCA filing requirement as well. So remember that. Don't forget that part of it. Now, if you do not have any kind of foreign connection at all, but you're looking at this as a possibility, this is going to be quite a difficult task. And I could almost say that this is going to be an uphill battle because other countries have what is called KYC, which is know your customer requirement, and they may or may not be willing to open bank accounts for you. And especially for those who have a US footprint because of other things that we have talked about in other episodes, there's a FATCA requirement that means that those foreign banks have to report your information back to the US. That could lead to a reluctancy to work with you, to open bank accounts for you, or maybe it could be mitigated if you're bringing a lot of money, like millions of dollars, and you have private banking and things like that, but we won't go into that. But viable countries are far and few. That's one thing. And then even if you could and you were able to open bank accounts, if this was a choice available to you, then definitely there's a lot of documentation involved. Like I said, maybe with the KYC requirements. And that is something that you will have to look at. And like we were saying earlier, the FATCA stands for the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. And what this has meant is foreign banks have to report all your information back to the US, back to the IRS. And for those banks that are not equipped to handle this, they might definitely not want to work with you in terms of opening a bank account and going through all of those things might even be a big drain on their, compliance department. So these are all of the factors that I think kind of should get you start thinking about the practicalities of doing this.
And actually, to your point, it's not only US citizens here. We've also had a lot of reports about US citizens living overseas being unable to open a bank account. Like there are really few bank accounts that are willing to open accounts for US citizens. So as you pointed out, for somebody who's here without those overseas connections, it really is going to be an uphill battle. I guess we go back to the original question. I am concerned about what's happening. Should I move my money overseas? And I think the way we'll turn this back to you is, yes, we understand, but we need to try and figure out what problem are we trying to solve? Is it because, again, you're concerned about the market? Is it because you're going to visit next year and you want to have some cash, that kind of thing? So if you'd already planned on moving the money, I think you should go ahead and do it. But if you're doing it because you're concerned about the market and what's happening here, we're all in the same boat. Really, absolutely consider the hassle of what it would take. It's, as Manasa has explained, it's not easy unless you have millions and millions of dollars. And so we don't want to leave you without a plan. We're going to suggest a couple things that you can do to sort of mitigate that or answer that question. If you're thinking about moving your money overseas because the market is tanking, here's a couple of things you can think about or consider. One, look at your financial plan and ensure your goals remain unchanged. If your goals have changed, it's time to have another conversation with your advisor to remap things as we're thinking about it. It's also okay to call them and chat about your anxiety. It's a valid question. It's something I've said to my clients. Feel free to call me anytime you have anxiety about what's happening in the market. If it's money you need in the next 3 years or so, that money should not be in the market. And I have a blog post that we're going to link to where we actually talk about short-term money and where some of the places that you can park this short-term money, high yield online savings accounts, maybe T-bills, maybe CDs and that type of thing, and really how to think about it, be systematic about it. And then continue building your emergency fund. Manasa and I talk a lot about 12 months plus the cost of return tickets home for the whole family in case something, things go south, at least you're not stuck. If you're a business owner, and I'm sure Manasa will tell you this, you probably want to go higher. There are a few other things you may want to consider. For example, if you're a single income household, you're on a work visa, you have your kids here and your family, you may consider going even higher, maybe up to 15 months. Hold off on major purchases like a house, especially if this will impact your reserves. Consider short-term market options instead. We actually talked about where we still see a lot of people, especially on work visas, wanting to buy a house as part of the American dream. And Vanessa and I will be like, okay, if it doesn't impact your reserves, if you're able to hold on to that house for at least 10 years, and we don't always know that because we don't know what's going to happen with your work visa. So that's something to keep in mind. Improve your skill sets, make yourself more marketable. So in case you get laid off, you're able to land somewhere. Let's see, invest in globally diversified portfolios to smooth out the ride. As it is, the US is about 60 to maybe 65% of the whole global market. And so if you invest in diversified portfolio, it really means you are investing in those markets outside. And so instead of parking your money in a bank overseas, you can actually be a participant in the market, right? And then, of course, keep investing through your 401ks, your Roth account, if it makes sense for you, of course. Invest in your IRAs. Don't stop investing. Keep investing. Again, think of it as dollar cost averaging. So when the market is up, you buy. When the market is down, you buy. And a couple other things. Let's see, rebalance your portfolio.
Wait a minute. Shouldn't it be when the market is up, you sell, and when the market is down, you buy.
That is true. When you're doing the rebalancing, you're
It's like, yes,
absolutely right. Yes, you're
yeah,
absolutely right. But the one I was thinking of is where, like, when you think of the 4K, you invest so much every month. So it
yes,
doesn't matter, what the market is
yes,
like. But
the
that's
dollar
a good
cost. Yeah.
point about the whole rebalancing idea. So you're always, let's say you're 70/30, you're able to maintain that. Anything else you can think of, Manasa?
Yeah, I go back to when don't look at the portfolio every
Okay.
day, which
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like I should have it tattooed on the back of my eyelids sometime. Oh, because that's doing nothing. It's just going to make you even more anxious. So I think one should just go about, try to live your life, meet up with friends, have a good social life, or go for a run, go for a walk, and ignore people who are telling you, oh, we made a ton on the market or whatever that they do. So you're in if you're in for the long haul, and you can hold on tight and talk to your financial planner. If you don't have one, find a good one who can listen and empathize with you, and talk to you about this. So yeah, I think that's what I think we should do. But do you have anything else you want to add?
So I think in before I do that, you do the official conclusion. But I think what we said is, so the question is, should I send my money overseas? And I think what
Yes.
we've sort of walked you through is, one, it's not as easy as just, should we send your money overseas? There's certain hassles, and it's really not easy to open bank accounts. So keep that in mind. But keep going back to, what's your concern? Why do you want to do this? And based on that, you'll be able to come up with, I'm sure you'll be able to walk through this and come up with a good answer for your situation. And I think that's it. You can do the official conclusion, as we call it.
Yeah, and definitely thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode and you want to listen to our other episodes, we are streaming on most major podcast platforms, or go to our website, theimcafe.com, THEIMCAFE, and you can find all our episodes there, and you can download our free guide about foreign assets as well. So thanks for listening, and we'll be back with more.
Bye.